Besides being the single largest investment for most families, homes and buildings are also responsible for 40% of energy consumption in the U.S. So there are huge environmental and financial gains to be made if we can fix up our old homes.
Today on Newly Greens, we're beginning the process of improving our home's efficiency with an energy audit.
To get us started, we're going to walk through our friend Zorena's home with Ed Schwartz and Ray Russell of Green Living Solutions.
Hello, I'm Zorena.
Hi, Zorena. How are you? I'm Ed Schwartz from Green Living Solutions.
Nice to meet you.
This is one of my partners, Gray Russell.
Hi, Gray. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Zorena. How are you?
Please come in.
Thank you very much. We've got a beautiful old home here.
Well, thank you very much.
So did Nancy explain to you a little about what to expect from a home energy audit?
Yes, she did. And I'm looking forward to it. I know I have a lot of areas that need improvement.
Well, we'll start at the lower level.
Okay.
And tell me a little about the home, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Anywhere there's hot spots, cold spots, draftiness. And we're going to look around for areas of energy use, energy waste, hazardous situations. And we're going to make sure that while making the home more efficient, we also make it more safe and comfortable.
It sounds good.
Wonderful. First up, this is asbestos on these pipes. The asbestos is crumbly.
Yeah, it's actually over there.
You always want to either remove or encapsulate the asbestos. Removing it's the best. And I'm looking at these water pipes, and you see all the green and the calcification. Actually, you see an active water droplet right there. But that tells you there are active leaks, and there have been leaks over the years. So we're going to take a closer look at the electric, because I'm noticing some knob and tube wiring here. Knob and tube, if installed correctly, was a wonderful system. You ran into some problems because if you look here, if you strip down the wires, and that can happen either intentionally or by little critters chewing on it, you expose the copper. And you see how people would just twist it instead of capping it off properly and sealing it, and that's when you ran into a lot of the issues with knob and tube.
Before we look to address any efficiency measures, we first have to make sure that the home is safe. So we're concerned about issues like moisture, mold, and mildew, because when we make a house tighter, any of the negative effects that are caused by these kind of detrimental things will be exacerbated. We're also worried about things like the electrical system. We want to make sure that it's up to code, because as we start to blow insulation into the walls and chases, we could actually potentially shift any old or faulty wiring, causing a short circuit or maybe even a fire.
Health and safety issues like these often don't come up until a home inspection when the house is ready to be sold. And then those repairs are deducted from the sale price. So of course you're going to eat that one way or another. By tending to them now, we not only qualify for cash back on improvements, but we get the added benefit of living in a safer, healthier home.
Something to keep in mind when having small children around. Do you see all this flaking paint?
Yeah.
That's a hazard for small children.
I know it is because of lead.
I would venture to guess it's lead paint. You can find out for sure by testing, but it's always safe to assume. And it's proper, even if you know there's lead paint, it's in all the old homes, to paint over it and seal it up in. But here, where it's peeling at that level, you want to make sure it's scraped and taken down to the original level. We've been through all this personally, so it's not as alarming as you would think. It just needs to be addressed properly. Tell me about some of the things you're experiencing here.
Okay.
Hot spots, cold spots, or
well, you know, in the winter when it's cold, I just feel like, you know, we just always feel drafty in this house. I try to keep the heat turned rather low. I don't, you know, 68 or so during the day. And it just, everything feels cold. You know, I think there's drafts around the window frames even, I'm feeling. And of course, we always put the storm windows down.
Well, we do recommend if people do use their fireplaces, because they are gorgeous and there's nothing like a roaring fire. If people do want to use them, a fireplace insert is a unit which goes into the firebox. It's vented up the chimney and out, so it uses outside air for combustion. So instead of drawing all the conditioned air out of the house and up the chimney, you're taking outside air. And typically it's a closed unit, and around the perimeter it's got blowers, so you can bring in heat. You can even have them thermostatically controlled.
Wow.
So they become an energy positive as opposed to an energy drain.
It's common for audits to identify past improvements that may have had the right idea, but were executed poorly. Like in this case, where a fireplace flue was supposedly closed up.
You can actually see around the perimeters, it's wide open.
Oh yeah.
You can see all the way back here. So even though it's closed here, this gap right here is allowing all this air.
So what cold? Yeah, it tells. No wonder it's always cold in here.
I don't know if I explained before, air movement is probably your biggest source of energy loss in a home like this. These homes were meant to breathe. Back then you were heating with coal or oil. You had gas lamps, kerosene lamps. So if the house was tight, people would have died from carbon monoxide poisoning.
Oh, that's the reason. Okay.
The Victorians called it bad air. They didn't know what it was, but typically the windows would be left open at night. A lot of the radiators are located under the windows, and they would oversize the heating system. Bad air was actually, in retrospect, most likely carbon monoxide poisoning.
Interesting.
Because right now you're very fortunate. The state and federal governments both have incentive programs to help homeowners improve the efficiency of their homes. They realize that in New Jersey, they have what's called the Global Warming Response Act. And that's a law that's put into place by Governor Corzine that mandates that the state has to reduce greenhouse gases by 20% by the year 2020. Now, at the same time, they also realize it's a recession, they can't force people to spend money. So what they're doing is putting in place economic incentives to help people make improvements now as opposed to putting them off indefinitely. In addition, with the federal government, with the recovery, with the stimulus package, they have federal dollars available for energy efficiency. So, for example, with this house, to insulate this house, upgrade the heating, cooling, or upgrade the windows, or whatever projects that we decide are going to make the most sense, it's making it easy for customers to do projects that typically they would put off a few years or not do at all.
It makes it the time to do it. There's no doubt about that.
You see the hinges? These are beautiful Victorian hinges.
Yeah.
They can be taken off, stripped down.
And it's so beautiful when they're stripped and they're polished and all. They're gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. It's also sustainable because we didn't have to go out and buy new materials. Water usage has become much more of a concern of late. With the old fixtures, typically they use 3, 4, 5 times as much water. And if you take a look here, Greg, you can see the velocity of water that can come out through even such a small and unsuspecting sink. And that's just touching, it's not even full velocity. Okay, the newer faucets, you can get low flow spigots, fixtures, or aerators. Take a look at this, Greg. It's an old style toilet, which has a capacity for about 5 gallons per flush. But if you look inside, they updated it with newer hardware, so it's only filled up less than halfway. But it's important with homes like this to put aside a budget every year. Typically, in this area, what I advise people is on a home this age, probably about $2 per square foot per year. And that'll go towards repairing those pipes, asbestos removal, roofs, painting. There's always some projects to do. So even if 1 or 2 years you skip it, have the money budgeted, because 3, 4 years down the road, it adds up, and then you get hit with $20,000 projects, and it gets a little bit overwhelming. And that's why a lot of the older homes fall into disrepair, because it can get overwhelming in a hurry.
When the audit is complete, the auditors will help you make sense of the results by making recommendations based on needs and return on investment.
Because some of these improvements are going to cost a relatively significant amount of money. So we want to help you prioritize on a logical and functional basis on some of the things that need to be done, but also on a payback basis. In this house, you can do everything from the boiler work to the insulation, or the air sealing, to the windows. So what we'll help you do is prioritize and see which ones are going to have the most bang for the buck. It looks like the second area is going to be air sealing and insulation, because it's drafty. We saw gaps and chases throughout the entire house. So that combined with insulation is going to be your biggest impact item. And then a lot of the smaller things you're going to be able to do, the compact fluorescent bulbs, the smart strips that we spoke about. These are the low-cost items. They're going to have quick paybacks. They're almost the no-brainers. They pay for themselves quickly and make the home more efficient.
Until the next time, keep thinking green. It's good for the earth.
And it's good for you.
That's right.